Good evening, everyone. It's Friday. Open the beer. It's been a long week this week, it has to be said. Just a busy week, which is always a good thing. But as I often say, I tend not to kind of partake in the demon drink midweek, and I haven't this week, and I've been longing for a beer all week. So if you'll just excuse me, I just need to quench a thirst. Here we go. Cheers. Oh, dude, I could so easily have downed that in one, but it's not a good look, is it? But then again, since when have I been cared about what I look like? Good evening, everyone. How are we all? I hope you've all had a good week. I'm just kind of blethering away a little bit here just to kind of get past the ads that people say often turn up at the beginning of the videos. So I'll leave it a little bit before I start talking about what's going to be happening this week, which is usually how I kick off these videos. Let's see who's in. Brad's in, Max, Ozzy's in, a regular there. Bottleneck Bob, how are you, Bob? Ian Clark, lots of familiar names. I feel like I'm getting to know all you lads really well just through these Friday nights. Derek, how are you, mate? Derek Clacton there. Gero's in, Calogero, my pal in Italy, who I shall be bright-eyed and bushy-tailed and teaching guitar to at 9 a.m. in the morning. Anton, how are you, mate? Anyway, news afoot. My signature guitar is finished, and it's arriving on Sunday. It was supposed to be here last Sunday, but there's been one or two hold-ups, and beyond Dan's control, it has to be said. It was a little bit frustrating when there was a day when I was expecting the guitar, a date when I was expecting it to be here, and the date arrived and the guitar didn't. But I know Dan has been working his little socks off to get the guitar finished, despite kind of circumstances, which I think we can all imagine what they are. Conspiring against a normal life, but it's arriving on Sunday morning, and oh yeah, do you think I'll sleep on Saturday night? I doubt it. So now let me tell you what else is happening this week, as I usually do at the beginning of the video. Hello, Michael. How are you, mate? Michael Dodds from Stockton, long-time student of mine, and nice to see you here, mate. Evening, James. How are you? Yeah, this week, tomorrow, the Saturday video. You guys seem to like these videos where I do a bit of a mashup of different styles. Like last week, I did the sort of Allman Brothers Shadows kind of thing, and there's another one like that coming up tomorrow. And if I just tell you that it is kind of, imagine a cross between rock guitar and kind of 1920s hot club Parisian gypsy jazz. It's that kind of thing going on. So there we go. We'll see what happens there. Monday there is a video of it's a solo video, another solo analysis, and it is I'll just cut straight to the chase. It's Richie Sambora, because I've never done anything about Richie Sambora on the channel, and I do love his playing. It's got a bit of a Charleston vibe, Anton, a little bit. Then Tuesday is going to be probably the first of a few videos I'll be doing on the signature guitar. Wednesday, there's a sort of another beginner novice level video going up on bar chords. Thursday, haven't decided yet. I think I've probably milked this this whole, how much silly money kind of thing for all it's worth now. I can't really think of anything else that you can spend eye-watering sums of money on. Other than, I mean, if I was going to do one on amps, it would be just basically, here's a Dumble, But Thursday, I don't know, it'll probably be some kind of retrospective sort of thing. I was thinking of doing a video at some point on my first home recording rig from back in the 90s. That might be, and how much it cost and etc. A bit like I did with my first gigging rig a while ago in a video. So that might be Thursday's video. And then Friday, we're back on the beer. So cheers. An unboxing would be great. Yeah, I think, I don't know, because what's happening is, I don't know if it's turning up in a box, basically, because Dan is going to be bringing it up personally. It's legal, don't worry. I am a business and he is a supplier and he is allowed to make deliveries. So I think it might just be, turning up in a case. So we'll see. The new Soldano, you're talking about amps. I don't know. I haven't seen anything about new Soldano. Where are we? Yeah, I got to agree with you, Ozzy. This whole kind of thing with pedals, it's sort of bypassed me, I'll be honest, because, mainly it bypassed me. I mean, in the 80s, I was skinned. I was a young man. I was a student for a lot of the 80s, and I was playing through a cheap amplifier with a cheap distortion pedal and using the volume control on my guitar, and I ended up having a chorus pedal as well, and that was about it. And this was around about the time that Guitar Player magazine was predicting the death of the guitar pedal, because everybody was going to be using rack-mounted systems. I sort of got into the whole multi-effects thing a little bit via that for a while, which ended up, I guess, culminating in the Vox Tone Lab. But that whole thing in the 90s of, kind of getting all retro and going pedals again when rack gear became sort of a bit passé. I was already kind of settled into my groove, or you might kind of say set in a rut by that time of using an amp and just using the overdrive channel on the amp and maybe a bit of reverb and a bit of chorus, and that was it. I never really kind of got into this whole massive big pedal board thing. Yeah, great silly price pedal video. Thank you, Anton. Yeah, I mean, I know it's possibly a controversial thing to say, but, I was just watching, if you haven't seen it, there's an interview that Rhett Shull does with Joe Bonamassa. And there's two versions of it up. There's one where it's just clipped down quite short, and there's the long one. I've just finished watching the long one. And Bonamassa's saying that, like, the number of times he's seen players playing through, a Marshall with a tube screamer and then plug into a Fender Twin with, I don't know, some other kind of pedal or something like that. And they sound the same plugged into both amps because the tone is kind of in their fingers, really. Are you around on 3rd of December, John? If so, I can bring my Gretsch Streamliner up and the Epiphone. Do studio. Yes, legislation willing, Bob. I will be around on the 3rd of December. We'll have to see what sort of state we're living in by then, because the lockdown may be over, it may not be. I personally have my doubts, but let's not stray into that territory tonight, shall we? I might have just lit a fuse under something there, but please, let's not get too controversial. I got bills to pay. Evening, Craig. How are you? What you got? DVD Bedford. I've got a large pedal board with a number of Boss pedals. Really only use compressor, distortion, and EQ. Sometimes a little delay, rest. Yeah. Exactly. The thing I've never been able to get my head around is, you know, when you see these kind of rig rundown videos, is it Premier Guitar that does those? And you'll see like somebody's pedal board and they'll have like, you know, 120, 12 different delay pedals, you know, because this one's good for this kind of delay and this one's good for that sort of delay. And you just think like, you know, how many members of the audience actually notice, you know? Yeah, it's a great interview, isn't it, Graham? Joe actually references a band in there that I haven't heard of for a long time. A band he was in when he was just a young whippersnapper called Bloodline. It's the first time I heard of Joe Bonamassa. I was kind of channel hopping in them, I don't know, early 90s. And in my memory, it was a Sunday afternoon. And I think it'll have been on Channel 4 or something like that. And documentary about this band called Bloodline. And there's this young whiz-bang kind of adolescent guitar player who is just, you know, I mean, how old would I have been then? Probably in me late 20s. And I'm thinking, okay, yeah, reassess your place in the general scheme of things, Mr. Robson. Evening, Steve. How are you, Mr. Hoggerton? Mr. Stevie Hoggett there, he's building me a clon pedal to try out. Well, a clone, if you know what I mean. So we're going to test that out in a video. It might be a while yet, but we shall see how that pans out. It would be good. I'm just saying, just putting this out there. If we had a real one to compare it to, if anybody's got any, you know, kind of incredibly expensive pedals that they would be prepared to lend to a fat bald lad in Redcar. You're not wrong, Deco. You're not wrong, mate. Get a good clean sound first. Yes, that's the way. That's the way I kind of, well, I had to basically because it was financial because I couldn't afford pedals. As I say, back in the olden days, set your amp for the dirtiest sound, and then dial it back on your volume control on your guitar. And I don't know, maybe it's just my experience, but a good overdriven sound when you dial back the volume control usually turns into a good clean sound, and vice versa. Yeah, YouTube should outlaw 12-year-old kids that can play Cliffs of Dover. It spoils it for the rest of us. I know. I can't tell you how many times I've had a stab at that one, and you know, I know where the notes are, but you just kind of think I'm never going to get from one point to another as quick as Eric Johnson does. I mean, he's just a phenomenal player, isn't he? You know, it has to be said. I never tire of hearing that album, which is why I did that video about it. Really enjoyed the podcast this month. 20 minutes of blues, brilliant. Definitely worth the Patreon. Well, thank you, Ian. Thank you. Yes. If anybody doesn't know, I do for the Patreon supporters, I do a monthly hour-long podcast. It's just like a radio show. It's basically the same radio show I used to do on a little community station around here. And I played. Does anybody remember the Brian May Starfleet project, where it was essentially Brian May and Eddie Van Halen just jamming some blues for one entire side of the EP? I played that this month because I couldn't resist it. I hadn't listened to it in a while, and I just kind of sat there and kind of forgot I was making a podcast and just kind of got lost in it a little bit. Eric Johnson is also a great composer. Yes, he knows how to put a tune together, it has to be said. And the thing I like about his music is his virtuosity on the guitar isn't the star of the show. Well, it is the star of the show, but you know, it's there because the music needs it, because the tune needs that kind of fast lick or that twiddly bit at that particular point. It's never a case of, you never get the feeling like you do with some guitar players that like they've come up with a load of fast licks and then just thought of some chords to put behind it, you know? Well, thank you, guys. Thank you very much. Lots of people here congratulating me on the podcast. I'm kind of working on the next one at the moment, by the way. So, you know, we shall see what's in that one. Anyway, cheers. Yes, I saw that, Dave Lewis. You sent me a fantastic Robert Fripp gear and Monster Pedals video earlier. Yes, I have seen the email, but you know, I cannot tell you how many emails land in my inbox on a daily basis. So if anybody's emailed me and I haven't responded, it's not because I'm just being kind of ill-mannered or anything. I must get about 500 emails a day. You know, and it's easy under those circumstances for something to get missed. So if I've missed something, if I've missed anybody's emails, I do apologize. If you're already into hobby electronics, you can build a very decent 20-watt valve amp for 100 quid or so. Do you know what? I've thought about doing that a few times, because I've been thinking about getting just a little valve amp, just because I got to tell you, this little Yamaha down here, it is. I can't lift it up because the lead's too short. This little Yamaha Thr-5, I get a really, really good sound out of that. It's never quite the same sound when I'm USB'd into the computer with it and recording like that. It's not a bad sound, but it's never quite as good as it comes out here. So I'm thinking about looking into, you know, getting a setup for miking up a guitar amp. And I'm thinking, well, if I'm going to do that, I might as well have another amp, you know, a proper little valve amp. I've been looking at the Bugera, that V5 Infinium, and the Harley Benton do a little 5-watt valve amp now as well. But then I've been thinking about, like, well, maybe I should just build one, you know. So, you know, we shall see. John, I last changed my strings in March. Is that bad? Are you a bass player by any chance? No. I don't know. I mean, it depends on your own physical chemistry. You know, I seem to kind of sweat acid, and I burn through a set of strings in no time at all. You know, I'll go through, if I'm playing on a heavy schedule like I am at the moment, I'll go through a set of strings a week. When I was gigging, it used to be a set of strings every gig. Yeah, that would be an idea for a video, wouldn't it, Anton? You've got the old noggin jogging there, mate. Yes. I shall have to think about that, because it's, you know, I mean, I studied electronics at college back in the 80s, and I'm rusty as hell now. I'm really, really out of practice beyond soldering in pickups and you know, kind of mending the odd guitar cable. You know, I am really, really rusty. But we shall see. We should just watch this space, is what I'll say about that one. Thank you, Das. I shall check that out. Dearie me, there's a lot on tonight, and the chat is kind of scooting by pretty fast. Well, thank you very much, Steve. Thank you very much. Stevie Hoggett's offering to give me a bit of help there. You're a top bloke, Steve. I don't believe what they say about you at all, mate. Anyway, we've missed an important topic off. What's everyone drinking tonight? I, as usual, have been frequenting Morrison's, and you've got to try this Morrison's Export. It's I mean, when I'm out in the pub, which obviously isn't at the moment, I am a proper cask-conditioned ale drinker, but in the house I drink lager. And if you're a lager drinker and you've got a Morrison's anywhere near you, try this stuff. It's pretty nice. It's, you know, it's very quaffable, as you can see. Estrella drum. Oh dear me, that's yes, that's a Ranji boom. Dearie me, oh, the Hobgoblin. Craig's on a mix of Foster's Bud and 1664. Well, that's almost like a league table, isn't it? With Foster's at the bottom and 1664 at the top. Jack and Coke here. Yeah, I got to tell you about Jack Daniels. When I was a young man, and I was, it was the cool drink, wasn't it, Jack Daniels? Because Keith Richards and the whole kind of rock and roll kind of shenanigans that you associate with Jack Daniels, and I got so ridiculously drunk on it that, dearie me, I really can't face it anymore. Even if you do kind of disguise it with Coca-Cola. Yes. What are your thoughts on Buckethead as a musician? I first saw him in, like I suppose a lot of us, I first saw Buckethead in the 1990s as, in one of the guitar magazines with this guy with a KFC bucket over his head. I'm thinking, oh, here we go, kind of gimmick, publicity stunt and everything. And I didn't hear him play really until many years later. I thought, okay, yeah, this guy is the real thing, isn't he? It's. I'll be honest with you, I don't get the whole kind of. Just from a practical point of view, I like to look at where my fingers are when I'm playing. I like to be able to see what I'm doing, and just anything that's, going to impede that, I just find that, a kind of barrier between me and the music that I'm making. Obviously, he doesn't, and obviously he feels, like it's some kind of security blanket that he wears or something. A bit like, kind of, what's his name? Out of the sensational Alex Harvey band, the guy who used to kind of get done up as the clown, Zal Clemenson, that's him. If that's what he feels comfortable doing, but dearie me, he is some player, isn't he? Yeah. It's just, you see people like him and you think, okay, just, every time you think you kind of a tidy little player, you kind of see someone like Buckethead, and you think, okay, yeah, you're just some fat bloke from Redcar who can play a few licks. That's the way I feel about it. Yeah. Anyway, excuse me. Important matters to attend to. 1 pint cans of Carlsberg Premium Export delivered by Iceland. Yes. For anybody who doesn't know, Iceland is a supermarket in the UK who do deliveries of things including, but not limited to, beer. Where are we? I think the Max came later in the 90s and Samix from that era. Yeah. Not sure what you're talking about there, Max, but never mind. What's for dinner tonight? It's curry, funnily enough, it being Friday. We had to kind of end the live stream early last week because the curry turned up over an hour early. It was meant to be, it was meant to be 7 o'clock it was booked for, and it turned up at 5:45, which is why I had to kind of make a rather swift exit last week. But this week it's just a homemade curry. Hi, John. What do you think of the Epiphone Casino? Well, if it was good enough for John Lennon, the Casino, yeah, it's kind of not quite the same thing as a 335 style guitar or a kind of thin line, is it? Because it is completely hollow, and nice tone, but you do have that feedback issue with them. which can be, you know, at a high volume and, you know, at gigs and stuff. But like, you know, I mean, I haven't really played one for, you know, for an extended period, so I can't say. But I do like the tone that other people get out of them. You just been to the chip shop near me, have you, Craig? Yeah, we were there the other night, Nate. There's a few nights during the week where I have, like, you know, literally an hour off from, I don't know, sort of 7, 8 o'clock in the morning through to like 9 o'clock on a night, and I've got an hour off at 4 p.m. And there is a fish and chip shop literally about 20 yards away from my front door. And so on those nights, scoot round to the fish and chip shop, and that provides sustenance. And we were there the other night. Do you have a particular bass you love, like with your guitars, or did you just pick any bass that would work? Well, the thing that happened with me with bass, I used to have all of my backing tracks for recording were done with something called a Boss Dr-5 for many years, which, if you don't know what it is, Google it. But those people who are in the know will kind of recognize what I'm talking about. It was just a little box about yay big, and it was a drum machine, and it had other instrument sounds in it. But the way it was laid out, the buttons on the top of it where you could play notes and stuff, it was laid out not like a piano keyboard. It was laid out like a guitar neck. You know, it had kind of rows, which were the strings, and columns, which were the frets, and you could kind of, you know, just play these things and press down shapes that you recognized. And it had bass sounds in it. And for many years, I used that as my kind of drum for doing my drum parts and bass parts and keyboard parts. You know, and the first year or so that I was using it, I'd never read the manual to kind of learn how to sequence with it, and I would just kind of play it in real time, you know, kind of hitting the kind of kick drum and the snare drum, dum da, dum dum da, like that, and then kind of on another track do the hi-hat, and then bounce it all down to another track. And I used to play bass like that, and I just thought, this is starting to sound a bit, you know, kind of dated. So I bought a bass with that one that you can see behind me, which I bought in about, dear me, I don't know, about 2004, 2005. Second-hand used bass on eBay, and it was about 60, 70 quid back then. And I've just kept using it ever since. So I'm thinking about upgrading the bass. I'm thinking about getting another bass. We shall see. Again, there will be a video in that, I'm sure. Yeah, okay. Last time you had fish and chips in Redcar, she gave me too much, but they were really good. Yeah, that's what they call a Redcar portion, mate. You know, the thing is, I'd rather maybe this isn't kind of, maybe this explains quite so much about my about the fine figure of a man that I am, but I would rather have a bigger portion and not be able to finish it than have a smaller portion and still be hungry at the end of it. No, it doesn't, Bob. They don't do Parmos there, or I don't think they do. The best Parmos in Redcar are from, well, the best ones in Redcar are from a local butcher's shop, but you got to cook them yourselves. You got to cook them yourself. The best Parmos in Redcar are from a little place called Marco's, which is just up near the what used to be the station pub, but it's now a block of flats. Yeah, nobody ever got food poisoning from a chip shop. They might have had coronary disease, but not food poisoning. And the other thing about chip shops is, if you're going to go into the fast food business, not that I was thinking of doing that, when was the last time you saw a chip shop go bust or kind of go out of business. I can't think of a single time. If you've got a fried chicken shop or a pizza shop or anything like that, all you need is one of the big chains like KFC or Domino's or somebody like that to come into town and start and people will always go for the branded one. But the only kind of big chain of fish and chip shops is Harry Ramsden's, and they are not very good, it has to be said. John abandoned a live stream for a curry. Legend. Yes. Well, you've got to have priorities, haven't you, Con? I had a drum machine from Mr. Collins, a square wood finish box thing. It was crap to me, but it apparently was used on a hit. Yes, yeah, that was the thing, wasn't it? Yeah, I think I remember that back in the 80s when I was at college. There was a few of us who were into music, and there was a band at one point, and there was one lad who had a bit of kind of cutting edge 1984 music technology, and I remember a drum machine that was it had like kind of the wooden, or I don't know if it was real wood or kind of just like Formica fake wood kind of box to it. It's not that I'm into video games or anything, but when you see old Atari consoles from the 70s, the old kind of Pong game, with the kind of the tennis back and forth, and you look at those, and it's like they actually thought, let's make this a piece of furniture and put a wooden finish on it. It's how times change. Deep fried cream eggs in our local chippy. I'll tell you what. There's a chip shop that's it's not here, but it's where I used to live in Middlesbrough, and they used to do these big sort of jumbo sausages that are about that long that you get in a chip shop sometimes. They used to do one of those wrapped in doner kebab meat, battered and deep fried. Dearie me, that was a heart attack on I was going to say a heart attack on a plate, but it wasn't. They were marvelous, though. They were just the thing after a night on the beer. No, I wasn't at South Shields College, mate. I was at a college in the Lake District. It's if you go to the Lake District, which you should, because it's a beautiful, beautiful part of the world. Take a cruise on Lake Windermere, and on the Hawkshead side of Lake Windermere, you will see an old Victorian Gothic folly of a castle there. It's called Ray Castle, and I studied there in the 1980s to be a Merchant Navy radio officer. The company Ray Castle is still, I think, in existence, but they're now based out of some dreary trading estate down in the outskirts of London somewhere. Yeah, that's where I went to college. Anyway, what was that? Your local chippy does pigs in blankets, battered jumbo sausage. Now I'm having that recipe. That has to be done, doesn't it? Dan's in. Dan, how are you, Dan? I will see you on Sunday morning. Cheers. Dan's building my guitar. I might have mentioned it. What is your favourite curry? Well, my homemade curry is a dansak. My favourite curry from Bengal Spice in Redcar. I should get them to sponsor these videos, shouldn't I? My favourite curry from them is the chicken tikka balti. It varies really from curry house to curry house. Like I mentioned, the Lake District there. We still, me and the missus still go back over there for a little weekend break every now and again. And there's a curry house in Ambleside. Confusingly, our local curry house is called Bengal Spice. The one over there is called Spice of Bengal. And they do this thing called the chili chicken masala. It's imagine chicken tikka masala, but like, you know, really, really kind of fiery and hot. You know, so that it depends from curry house to curry house, really. Oh, dearie me, Jason, you're living in Germany, no chip shops and not many curry houses, no Greggs. I couldn't live without a Greggs. Again, everybody outside the UK is thinking curry, Greggs. What's that? For anybody outside the UK, Greggs is a British institution. They sell meat pies and in of every variety, and you know, mighty fine they are too. Bengal Spice do an amazing chicken madras, and the chapatis are excellent. Yeah, I'll agree with you on the chapatis. I can't quite take madras these days. I like it, but it doesn't like me. It gets a bit messy. We'll leave it at that. We'll not talk about. We'll not go into too much graphic detail. Germany's kebabs beat the shit out of ours. You can always have a currywurst. They seem to love those. Curried sausages. Yeah, that brings back memories of using up leftovers out of your fridge when you were a student. I do indeed remember Randy Rhodes, Taj. I remember, you know, just the buzz of excitement going around the school, because it was when I was at school that all like kind of Ozzy's first solo album. And you know, because he'd done Never Say Die with Sabbath, and although that was the album that sort of got me into Ozzy and Sabbath, you know, it wasn't in retrospect Black Sabbath's finest hour. And I remember the kind of buzz of like, Ozzy's got a new band and he's got this kind of really, really good guitar player, and you know, and there was this kind of rumor mill was sort of spinning about this new guitarist in Ozzy's solo band, and of course it was Randy. And you know, that will be a subject of one of the why I love this album videos, the live album, the Randy Rhodes tribute album. I bought that in the 80s when it came out. Was it about 86, 87? And it's just an absolute classic album, isn't it? Where are we now? We will never know what went on in the jet plane. Yeah, this is just one of those things, isn't it? You know, I mean, it's just one of those tragedies. What happened to Randy? Gary Moore was penciled in to join Ozzy, yes, but they couldn't make the dates work. Gary, I've read Ozzy's autobiography. Every year for Christmas, I get like a bunch of books, because people, apart from playing guitar and listening to music, one of the things that my main hobby is reading. I would rather read the worst book in the world than watch the best TV show in the world, is sort of where it's at. That's not quite true, but I do love reading. And yeah, I got Ozzy's autobiography for Christmas a few years ago. I think it's just called I Am Ozzy. And yeah, him and Gary it just seemed like a natural fit. But, you know, Gary had commitments, and, you know, they just couldn't make the dates work. So what if? It's one of those great what ifs. Ozzy said Gary Moore got a face like a welder's bench. Yes, well, you know, but he was, you know, good job he wasn't a fashion model then, isn't it? Good job he was a guitar player. I heard Gary decide that Ozzy was wild to be in a band with. Yeah, but that was just part and parcel of the era. I mean, you know, that late 70s, early 80s, it was the time of excess, wasn't it? It was still the kind of the fag end of that whole kind of socks and rugs and rock and roll kind of lifestyle. And you know, show me a rock star from that period who wasn't, you know, kind of a bit of a wild man, you know. Gary Moore's guitar solo faces, though. Yeah, I know what you mean. He does kind of gurn a bit, doesn't he? Or he did. Any thoughts on Alan Holdsworth? Yeah. I mean, what can you say about his technique? I mean, and just his whole approach to music, you know, just when you kind of hear interviews with him, there's that REH kind of VHS video that he did in the 80s that's up in YouTube, and he kind of explains how he just took this mathematical approach to kind of figuring out scales and stuff, and inventing his own scales. It's just kind of completely out of left field, and that led to his music being completely out of left field. Stunning technician, but I really struggle with his music. You know, I find it amazing, but I can't listen to a lot of it all in one go. It was just a bit too out there for me. When I'm in the mood, I enjoy listening to it, but as I say, he's not in regular rotation because I just don't find it particularly melodic. There was a really good outfit from Northern Ireland back in the 80s called Mama's Boys. Very particular sound. Had one real big hit called Needle in the Groove. I remember Mama's Boys. I can also tell you a little bit of a I don't know if it's trivia about them, but do you remember the Page 3 model, Sam Fox, and her kind of you know, short-lived music career? Mama's Boys were her band on the album that she did. There's been a few John Robson faces in earlier videos. Yes, I don't deny it, but you know, I mean, let's face it, any alteration that I do to this face can only be an improvement. Touch Me, that was the one. That was what it was called. Yes, indeed. I do remember Sam Fox doing all of the kind of music interview kind of shows and what have you on about the time, and she was saying, yes, I want to be a serious musician. And okay, love, fair enough. But you know, it was the 80s. I remember it all fondly, well, most of it fondly anyway. Excuse me, just taking care of important business here. And there we go. Not a bad little head on that one. It's all in the paw, or so they say. What do you think of driver's seat sniffing the tears? I have no thoughts on that at all, Capo. Mainly because I'm not entirely sure what you're talking about. Hi, John. Do you have any experience with the Boss CP1X compressor? I'm just thinking about click to buy the button, but would like your input if possible. No, I don't have any experience of it, but compression is one of those effects that is indispensable when you need it, but you need it kind of once or twice in a blue moon, is my experience. Cheers, Tim. I don't have any experience of that particular compressor, so I can't give you any advice on it. But let's face it, if it's a Boss, it's just, you know, they didn't become the industry standard in effects pedals for no good reason, did they? Do I like the band UFO? Of course I like the band UFO. Strangers in the Night is one of the best live rock albums, if not the best live rock album ever recorded. It should be regarded up there with Thin Lizzy's Live and Dangerous. It is a stunning live album. And, you know, I was just listening to, you know, I've said in a video recently that every morning I get up at really kind of stupid on a morning and listen to an album as I'm kind of just having my first cup of coffee. This morning I was listening to UFO's Obsession. Have you read Bernie Marsden's book? No, I haven't. I mentioned that I was going to be kind of getting that for me Kindle, and I got that look from the wife. You know, everybody's wife has that look that they give you, you know, and I get the impression that I shouldn't buy that book because it's going to be under the Christmas tree this year. So I will have read it by you know, within a few weeks' time. Gary Moore live from London. Yeah, there's been a bunch of. I've got to tell you about Gary Moore. I am a huge Gary Moore fan. I've done 3 Gary Moore videos in the last 2 weeks, so that kind of gives it away, really. But when he kind of went a bit off the rails, I think. Dark Days in Paradise and a different beat, and he just went a bit kind of like, these don't sound like Gary Moore albums anymore. In the late 90s, early 2000s, I sort of kind of, and the whole Scars thing, I never really kind of got any of that. And then he kind of did Back to the Blues, and I so wanted to love that album, but I just really couldn't. So I kind of lost interest with Gary's output in the 2000s, and then felt really guilty when we lost him. You know, for kind of losing the faith, as it were. And I'm sort of discovering those albums now. So that'll be one of those albums that came out in that period, I'm imagining. Yes, No Sleep Till Hammersmith, Irish Stew. I mean, that is a fantastic live album. If you haven't seen it, check out Warren Hewitt's video on the 40th anniversary of Ace of Spades, where they've got he does like a kind of a Rick Beato thing, you know, where he's got the master tapes and isolates all the tracks and everything. Really interesting video. Yeah, I know what you mean, Jeff. I read that book as well, and I think Eric is a complicated man, and we'll leave it at that. You know, he's well, just purely on his music alone. I mean, if I count up the number of Eric Clapton albums that I absolutely love and adore, any artist would be, if that was their entire back catalogue, that would qualify them as you know, a stellar artist. The problem is with Eric that he's had, let's say, fallow patches in his career. Well, fair enough, Derek. If you love a different beat in Dark Days in Paradise, that's you know, it's different strokes, mate. I just you know, Dark Days in Paradise came off the back of Blues for Greenie, and it was just like, what is this? You know, it was like, okay, Gary, you've gone off on a bit of a tangent there. Yeah, Cape, what's that? Cape Cod Dog. Yeah, I was never in the military. I you know, I'm a big supporter of veterans and everything, but I never I never served. I was at a merchant navy college, and that's you know, that was it. I never served with the military at all. But you know, I do wholeheartedly support veterans and veterans causes, and you know, I think it's fair to say that what's that George Orwell quote? You know, we all sleep soundly in our beds at night because men are prepared to kind of risk their lives for us, or something along those lines. I wholeheartedly agree with that. Steve Jones from the Sex Pistols is the best autobiography I've ever read. Okay, well, I shall give that a go. I must admit, I've seen. I don't know if you've seen it. It's probably up on YouTube, but the classic albums show where they're talking about Nevermind the Bollocks, the Sex Pistols album. Steve Jones on that just comes across as the kind of guy you'd like to go for a beer with. I got to tell you. You know, and you know, not a fantastic guitar player, it has to be said, but an influential guitar player, can't be denied. Yeah, Bird of Paradise by Snowy White. Had the single when it came out. I remember buying it in the local Woolworths. Fantastic song. You went to see Scar's tour at Sheffield City Hall. Thought it was amazing, but not as good as Still Got the Blues. Yeah, I mean, I saw Gary on the Still Got the Blues tour, and it was one of the, well, probably the best gig I've ever been to, and I've been to a few. You could tell there was a man who was just playing music for the love of it. He would have done that gig for free. Yeah, the one gig I would love to, the one thing I would have loved to see Gary doing on a gig, and probably one of his best albums, I think, is that BBM album he did with Jack Bruce and Ginger Baker. That was a fantastic album. Fantastic album. It was just, you know, it was like, you could tell it was Cream, but you could tell it was Gary Moore, and the two just seemed such a natural fit. Thomas, no, I'm not familiar with Billy Zoom from the band X, but I shall make it my business to check them out. This is another thing I love about these live streams, is I'm discovering kind of new music. Yeah, Mark Knopfler had the Bird of Paradise single too, methinks. Yeah, well, I don't know. I mean, this was, you can't deny that Knopfler sounds a lot like Snowy White on that song, but I don't think, you know, because I'm thinking Bird of Paradise, what year was that? And how soon after that was Dire Straits, like kind of hitting it big. I don't think Knopfler just kind of, I don't think anybody could just kind of suddenly think, okay, I'm going to start playing like that and making it, you know. I think it takes years to craft a manner of playing. It's like back in the 80s, that it was a weird thing. Yngwie suddenly appeared, and then suddenly there were all these other guitarists like Tony McAlpine and Vinnie Moore and, you know, what was he called, Dave Chastain, who sounded a lot like Yngwie. And they got labeled as Yngwie copyists, but like, you don't just kind of hear an album and then suddenly you're able to play like that all of a sudden. You know, having heard an album and decide to copy it, you know, it takes years, if not decades, to kind of get that that level of to be able to play like that, basically. Yes, Graham, I vaguely remember the temperance movement. Yes. Oh, Jeff, you saw BBM at Brixton. I always thought it was a Cream reunion, but then Clapton changed his mind. That's possibly how it came about. I don't know. But, you know, given the fact that when the Cream reunion did happen about 10 years after that, which was a great gig, by the way. If you haven't seen that that Cream Royal Albert Hall reunion. That is fantastic. It's really well worth checking out. BBM, totally forgot about that. Would love to. Oh, okay, so Steve, you forgot about BBM. Would love to have been the fly on the wall and the booze with them. Yeah. You get the feeling that they were all kind of quite fond of a wee swally, weren't they? Yes, it is. Yes, it is, mate. That's Johnny Random there. It's the album. Yeah, I mean, that's inevitably what happens. Somebody has a big hit or a new artist breaks through with a new sound, and then suddenly all of the other rival record companies all kind of go searching out bands and artists that sound very similar. Yeah, who likes Warren Haynes, says Bottleneck Bob. Yeah, I can stick my hand up on that one. I gotta tell you, I like Government Mule. I like that's his sort of solo side project, isn't it? Fantastic band. Do I remember Skid Row? Which Skid Row? Are we talking about the American band from the late 80s, or are we talking about the Irish band from the late 60s, early 70s with Bruce Shields and Gary Moore and so on? Yeah, I'll agree with you, Scott. It is funny how Chris Rea gets left out. He is a superb slide player, and I remember going into Ria's ice cream parlours in Middlesbrough as a kid, and there was this. I mean, I was like really little, but there was this kind of kind of long-haired bloke there who was playing a guitar in the corner and just kind of figuring out songs and occasionally serving customers, and that was Chris. Yeah, I hear what you're saying, Ozzy, about Bird of Paradise and Brothers in Arms. Yeah, I mean, you could say there was a similarity there, I guess. Sorry, excuse me while I just catch up on the chat. Yeah, Chris Rea is walking down a stony road. I mean, I think I've got that somewhere. And it's the whole package with Chris, isn't it? He's got the voice as well. He's not what you would call a singer in the same sense of like Paul Rodgers or someone like that, but it's just can you imagine a Chris Rea song with anybody else's voice but Chris singing it, apart from Fool If You Think It's Over, obviously, which Elkie Brooks kind of covered. John, your likes don't work. Take it up with YouTube, I'm afraid. I have no control over that. What would Jimi Hendrix be doing now? Well, I don't know. I mean, I would like to think he would still be innovating on the electric guitar. I would think it would be more likely, though, that as fashions come and go, he would have become maybe a bit like hopefully an elder statesman of rock. I would hate to think that he had, become sort of like his own tribute act, which a lot of guys from that era sort of kind of have done. Didn't Chris Rea write Lilac Wine as well? I don't know. I'm not sure. Maybe I'm imagining it, but I thought there was some Mike Batt involvement on that, as in the Wombles, Mike Batt. Jimmy would be joining in here. Oh, if only. I have seen Thomas Blug on YouTube. He's a fantastic player, yes. And You know, I love the fact that when he went for a signature guitar, he didn't go to Fender. He went to Vintage and got that Trev Wilkinson designed signature guitar. Anyway, chaps, we've been on an hour and I'm starting to get a bit peckish, and my TV show starts at 6 o'clock. In case you're interested, I'm addicted to a TV show called Wheeler Dealers. So I'm going to go and watch that, and I'm going to have another beer downstairs because this is the last I brought up here. Once again, everyone, thank you so much for turning up. It is always astounding to me that at the moment, like, you know, nearly 200 people have turned up to watch a fat lad talk rubbish and get drunk. But you seem to enjoy it, so I'll keep on doing it. Thank you so much, everyone. I will see you all in the next video. But for now, time, gentlemen, please.